Most segments of society are awakening to the wrongs that have been perpetrated as far as our misuse of the earth and also of our disuse of our spiritual power in relationship to our fellow man. What is needed at this point in time is for each to take responsibility for his own little corner of the world and improve it in any way he or she can. It is time to restructure our whole world because it has been primarily based on emotional reactions. It is time to put an end to these outdated emotional reactions such as resentment, self-pity, and martyrdom. It is time to be free of that imprisonment. This is why the push is on for everyone to have a creative artistic release to act as the clearing and cleansing factor in transmuting lower life forms of emotions. This would be things such as anger, resentment, pride, jealousy, bigotry, prejudice, falseness, and the reactions they cause, fighting, screaming, raping, killing, maiming, and so on, into the higher life forms of emotions such as compassion, love, joy, hope, integrity, positive reassurance, and so forth. This transmutation will have reactions that will astound humanity. In the process of clearing and transmuting these emotions and the reaction these emotions cause them to have towards others, they will be progressing their own spiritual standing. There is no feeling like the peace that is experienced when one is finally released from the lower emotionalism. Think about an existence where all are at peace with their neighbors and, more importantly, with themselves. There can still be feelings, perhaps even feelings of remorse for past deeds, and feelings of frustration that many children still go hungry, but even the gentle tears that these thoughts bring will soon be replaced with determination to right those wrongs, those discrepancies that we are able to right. Where must it all start? With each and every individual that walks the face of this planet now and forevermore. There can be no more wars, as this violence will no longer be possible without total destruction, not only of humanity, but the planet herself. All need to rid themselves of jealousy, anger, greed, selfishness, and pride. These are the attitudes that must be transmuted. They must first be overcome in the mind and then applied to outer actions. The first step will eliminate internal strife and disruption in the planet, manifesting in peaceful atmospheric conditions. The second step will eliminate violence and angry words and killing, raping, and maiming of our brothers and sisters. This then will manifest itself as a ceasing of war and crime. Only after these two steps are taken can there be hope of peace. Not everyone is growing. Some are, many more will, but most won't. It takes much perseverance and obviously a soul commitment to stand firm against the tremendous pull that society has to suck us into the established ways of living our life. This pull is very hard to swim uphill against, and most people can't accomplish it, due, I suppose, mostly to fear of being an outcast from the tribe. Isn't this a throwback to the days of early man? Are things really much different now than they were then? The establishment uses the fear of ostracism to hold you inside the fences of your mind. We all need to eliminate these fences that not only separate our creative, intelligent, and spiritual mind levels from our physical life, but also hold us separate from the rest of humanity. These fences must come down in all areas. Now is the time. The new culture is here. What are you waiting for? Are you going to join in the glorious days ahead, or are you going to be left behind? The choice is yours, and in the long run, who will miss you if you do not come along? You are only holding back your larger self, your higher, more spiritual part, if you do not come along. Humanity is in the transition period between ages. The standards of the past, the criteria of success that has been in place for the last century or so, has to be replaced, will be replaced with different guidelines. The criteria for each life will no longer be the size of your home and value of your car or educating your children at a prestigious school. The criteria for each will be the harmony of the individual, the inner peace of knowing that he's on the right path and is bringing all parts of himself into alignment by working on his own attitudes. The goal is to be a well-balanced individual who is not able to be swayed by out-of-balance people. Self-confidence is a feeling of knowing a skill inside and out and being able to present that knowledge to the world, and also being able to integrate that skill into your daily life and pass the rewards, help, and goodness on to other people. Self-esteem is the feeling that would come then from having accomplished the task of being able to present this skill to others. Self-esteem cannot come from just knowing a skill. In fact, knowing this skill and not passing it on to others causes a loss of self-esteem. Self-esteem will only come from expression of the soul. Expression of the soul can only come through the arts. This is the only way to attain the overall goal of the brotherhood of man. The spiritual life must be ingrained in one from birth onward. When this occurs, there is no need to explain the spiritual path, as each will know what it must be. For those on the earth plane now, it has not been ingrained, therefore it must be explained, and in as simple terms as possible for all to understand. Even though the basic skeleton of the truth is simple, there has been so much piled on top of this fragile, simple, bony structure of our universe as far as belief systems, that the beginning structure can no longer bear the weight of the burden of all the garbage heaped on it. It is beginning to flex these simple but all-powerful bones of structure and shake off the layers and layers of misinformation and false beliefs that are weighing it down. It must return to the simple structure that it was. The breakup of the Soviet Union was indeed a miracle brought about by those guiding that country from the inner planes. It will continue to be guided, and eventually all will smooth out into a calm, peaceful, spiritual group of countries. They will be more open to new thought once the oppression has ended. New thought started at the top with the government in Russia and now needs to work down to the people. In our country, it is the opposite. It started with the people and needs to work up to the government. A world government will begin taking shape soon. All humanity makes up the thinking mind of God, as he experiences here on the earth plane, and there are many helpers in the unseen realms that also make up this thinking mind of God. Those in the unseen world cooperate with those in the seen or manifested world to improve conditions on the earth to allow for further spiritual growth, just as those on the earth channels and others through meditation that keep in touch with the unseen world to allow new teachings to be brought to the earth. It must be stressed that what is taking place today with the teachings coming through channels is exactly what has taken place throughout the centuries to allow the Bible to come into being. The teachings that are coming through now are really those that will form an updated edition of the Bible. People need to realize that there have been misinterpretations in the Bible throughout the centuries, not only in the transcribing that has been done, but that there also is misinterpretation in the original teachings as a channel, or prophet as they called the biblical channel, brought them through. They should realize that right to start with, the Bible could be no more than 85% correct, as most channeling has a margin area of between 5 and 15% automatically. Then all the transcribing that was done has allowed another 25% of error to occur. This leaves only 60% of the Bible that could possibly be accurate, and this is not even true, as most of the teachings were brought through an unevolved channel or prophet. The teachings coming through now simply are more true because those giving the teachings on the inner planes and those channeling them on the earth plane are all much more evolved than they were then. But those early teachings formed the platform that helped the present-day channels evolve to the point where they are now. So the old teachings must not be denounced. They must be allowed their place in history as something that paved the way and helped humanity reach the point of evolution where they are now. Some people will think that we should not try to change society's existing system, but to start from scratch, creating systems and programs independent from them. This is not the way to accomplish major changes. You may accomplish a few minor changes, but this is mostly the way people with tunnel vision see that things should be done. If one were to look at the world from the overview, they would see that any change made this way is but a drop of red dye in an ocean of water. There simply are too many people involved in and caught in present society's web. There will not be any changes brought about for the majority until they are worked through the existing structure. New groups can go out and set up their own unstructured organizations and ways of living their life, but for the most part they are going to have to conform in some manner to social and educational goals, or they will be prevented from living their life in the manner they choose. It will not help the progress of the rest of humanity, and this is where spiritual growth lies, not in just living your life in your own little nook and ignoring the problems of the world. The change has to come from within the structure, And if all those who know what these changes are and have the desire and the will to bring these changes about go off on their own and ignore the rest of the world, then all our hopes for a changing world will have gone down the drain. The new energy is causing people to suffer from more headaches than usual and more muscle aches and, believe it or not, more broken bones. The bone structure of youth is such of changed DNA that the vibratory field of Earth is causing a brittleness to the bones and a stiffness of their muscles. These youths need to trust their intuition as to what will help them. This also accounts for many people turning to drug usage. They know they need to have something and think it may be the drugs that will help them. The only thing that will truly help them is to be able to access the new energy. To be able to do this, they need to be educated as to spiritual, not religious truths. They must not be caught up in the old patterns that are present on the earth now. The energy from other planets has always affected Earth more at one time than another, depending on the position at any given time of that particular planet in relation to Earth. This energy is being intensified and has a different effect on humanity and also on plant and animal life. The study of the effect on plant life has not been thoroughly pursued. It needs to be. Each species of plants is affected differently in its growth by the different energies. It would be similar to drawing up an astrological chart for the vegetable and fruit crops. These energies will be harnessed in the future and trained on fruits and vegetables through colored lights in the vegetable and fruit barns. These lights are the different energies coming from different planets. Animals are affected the same as humans by their birth times and places, not to as great a degree, of course, but only as much as evolution has advanced that particular animal. Animals can be trained by controlling the energies they receive from birth on. For instance, a litter of pups can be separated and one of them be placed constantly under red light, which is an aggressive energy from Mars. Another can be basked in amber light with a marked increase in intelligence, and so on. The same concept can be applied to humans. This would be a furthering of the astrological chart. In other words, once the chart is laid out in red and the goals are known, then the colors would be used to increase the energy of the particular goal. This is taking astrology one step further, an aid to getting more out of having your chart done. The mineral kingdom is also affected by energies, but only as storage areas for them. This field can and will be greatly elaborated on, and much use will be found for different crystals, natural crystals, not man-made. These crystals can even now have the energy they give off intensified by leaving them under different colored lights. The uses they could have are many. One is uses in radio transmission, another is in healing and preventative medicine. They will be used in transportation and climate control and even more. The same energies can be applied to music. An instrument could be built using the energies in the form of intensified colors to activate the sound, which would be a combination of strings and air. The beam of light would heat the air to a certain degree depending on the color, and the air would cause a vibration of the strings, not wire strings or plastic, but what is called gut strings. The different strings on a keyboard would cause different colored lights, alone or in combination, to activate the different strings. This gives forth the most beautiful sound. A soothing, calming tone is produced. This is the xylolute, an instrument of the future. It is not electric. There will be no such thing as electricity. The energies themselves will be controlled, minutely drawn out of the atmosphere itself by magnets that attract the different energies to activate the lights. Think of it as a solar battery that will always be charged. The instrument is actually battery-powered. This same process will be used in the medical field, only the channeling of the energy will be put to different uses.